Myochi.
Hi, and this is Renee, and we would like to welcome you to the 40 Spot, where we talk about the highs and the lows and everything in between about 40 years old, being 40.
Yes. So follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook at the 40 Spot. And you can find our podcast anywhere that you get your podcast.
Yes, yes. So, like, comment, subscribe, share this live, share our pages with your friends, your coworkers, everybody that you know, and you can catch us on the replay. Um, but
Absolutely. So on this episode, we discuss the evolution of marijuana, honey. The good, the bad, and the ooh wee.
ooh,
Yes, but first we're going to get into our While You Were Out segment. This is when we discuss news, entertainment, and personal experiences that may have occurred since our last show.
yes, and we definitely have a lot to talk about.
A lot
Lots
has happened in the last 2 weeks, for real.
yes, and we always gonna start out on a good note. Good note. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown, is it Jackson? Yes, she was confirmed,
Yeah,
which we expected. She is thus far the most qualified
ever.
uh, ever.
Ever.
Ever. So we need not to say anything about that. You can go back and see in one of our posts where we did like a with Brett Kavanaugh and who was the other lady? She was just she was really, really
I
young.
really want to call her Amy Schumer, and I know that's a comedian, so
But her name was Amy something.
it is.
She got blonde hair. She the youngest. And since those three people have been confirmed to be Supreme Court justices really like in the last 4 years, which is kind of monumental because typically you see several changes of presidency and they don't get to appoint anybody.
Yeah.
But considering all of those, she had more experience than both of them together.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that she's going to be a great addition because she has worked in public service. And one thing I did not know was that she was actually a public defender for people that was in Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, really? Didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I didn't even know that those people that was even out of that, considering, it's in Cuba. And I'm like,
I mean, it makes sense that they would get offered that, but I,
I didn't know because I mean, like they put them down there in Cuba so that they can do and torture them. So it's kind of like, which I still kind of give them, some constitutional rights and stuff. So that was just brand new information and stuff that I did not even know. You as a lawyer, you can go and you can work at Guantanamo Bay to help these people
exactly.
and stuff. So yeah, but congratulations to her first African American woman of color to be there, and she's actually the third African American ever because the first was Thurgood Marshall, then Clarence Thomas, and now her. So we still appreciate all of the work that the Black people is doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the second thing we're going to talk about that has happened, so in Georgia, our little Governor Brian Kemp has passed a bill, legislation that says you do not have to have a license for closed carry. So you
So
can't be open carry, but you conceal. That's the proper word. So like you have
yes,
it in your purse, you have it in your car, you have it, on your person. That's fine. It just can't be out and about. And there's good and bad things to it, but I see more bad than good for this. Honestly,
well, just FYI, that same particular kind of law was passed here in Tennessee, where you no longer needed to have a license to carry. Open carry, yes, but concealed carry, no. So it's kind of one of those things like for real now at this point, you taking your chances if you run up on somebody.
And honestly, with the whole open and concealed, really the only open is when you really have it in your holster, because
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to brandish a firearm. So it's
Exactly.
not like open meaning you just have it, you can walk around in your hand if you have the license. You can't do that.
Yes,
So
it has to be holstered. So,
exactly. So it's one of those things that I just feel like, unfortunately, is going to put the police at a higher stress level than they already are. And, I have various thoughts about the police. However, they do put their life on the line. And they do, when they approaching certain things, certain situation can go left. And now those police officers who are the good cops, they're put at more risk. And then the ones who scary are even scarier. Now, they're scared of word. Are they scarier because now, like, oh my God, anybody can have a gun. And because literally anyone can have a gun. The people who were following the rules and were like, well, I don't want to have a gun in my car, they're going to have a gun in their car because I'm going to have a gun in mine.
hey, I believe in the Second Amendment right. And I believe that if you are, because I'm gonna be black first, if you are black and you are able to have purchase a firearm and get it registered, you should. You
I
definitely
believe
should.
that too. I just feel like, you know, with that bill, it just gives them more ammunition of I was scared for my life, right? Like, because the reality is the number of people with guns now is gonna go up. That's just the reality. Whether
Well, when we if we reverse back to 2020, there was a 700% increase in gun sales. And actually, guess who was buying more guns? Black people, because the fear is that, or whatever they think, all black people had a gun, which obviously that was not
it's
true
not true.
because before then, but like when people was running out going to get toilet paper and stuff, like every morning I was getting off work, I'm going to the gun store, I'm looking for bullets, and then the price of bullets increased so much. And like I remember one time I went to one of the gun stores and I'm like, are y'all closing? Because it looked like a store that was like, we're closing and we're just literally trying to sell everything. It was like nothing could even stay on the shelf. And I ended up purchasing a firearm, and I was like, I don't even know if I like this, but I know that white man, he just kept on looking like, you go get it. Is you go get it? Yeah, I'm gonna get it. Cause I'm like, now
Listen,
let me go ahead. Cause
there is something brewing. Let me tell you, in not last December, but the December before last, my mom and I went to a gun safety class, and
okay.
we shot and all this, and it was outside. It was,
Hmm.
it was very nice. It was designated for Black women specifically, but Black women. It was ran by a Black woman. It was really good. I wish I could remember the name of it because I would shout it out. Because I learned a lot. That's not the point. We out in these open fields, but it's an area that a lot of people go to.
Hmm.
And you have this group of white people, and I don't care what color they were, but they are shooting these rifles. They are on the ground shooting these rifles. I mean, these shots are going off, and it's like, well, who y'all about to go fight? They don't have no army fatigue on. They don't have anything that looks like we're training for my job. And so the question is, what are you training for? What are you training for?
They are
You're
training
not
for
trying to kill a deer.
doomsday.
You don't need that to kill a deer.
No,
I know people that hunt and they don't need none of that to kill a deer.
yeah.
So
And one thing about it is like assault rifles, which are ARs. You know, there's like AR-15s and AK-47s and different stuff like that. Those rifles was never intended for hunting. Those were for specifically, I am trying to kill people, and it has a lot of the bullets and stuff, they are piercing. Um armor protection, like if you have bulletproof vests and stuff like that. Like it's different bullet levels of bulletproof vests and stuff that can withstand those high power rifles and stuff like that. But you know, it's one of those things like you do not want to be in no gunfight and you're outgunned and out ammo. And that's what's happening right now in the Ukraine. But that's a whole nother story because I had to break that down one day. We ought to just like go live one day and just talk about it because we talk about it and it's like, okay, let me tell you about what I know about fighting and stuff. But yeah, and I think that'll be a good show for us to do, not just about the Russian-Ukraine war, but if you can try to find like the information where y'all did the class at, and maybe
Mhm.
they want to come on and give some helpful tips about people, homeowner, gun safety, what they offer, really what does the Second Amendment right means to all individuals, but how is it broken down individually from
I
state
really
to
like
state?
that idea. I'm gonna reach out to her because we've learned so much. And my biggest thing, like, I don't have a gun in home. Maybe I shouldn't announce that, but nobody knew where I live. But I want one. And my biggest thing about not having one is like, what sense does it make to have a gun in my home if I don't know how to be safe with it and I'm afraid of it? And I'm afraid of it because you don't use it. You're afraid of a gun because it's like I don't know what to do. But people who go and they train and they practice, they know what to do. So that fear isn't there. So I think that's so important.
Yes.
And in this class, she was talking about, well, she's ex-military, and she was talking
Okay.
about how she has her gun on her side table, her partner had his gun on the side table, and how you should lay it down, where you shouldn't put it, different places they have it. Still brought the question, well, who coming in your house? But at the end of the day, if it did happen, it's better to be prepared. Something else they talked about was like even insurance,
Mm-hmm.
having insurance that you can't call your mom and be like, I shot somebody in my house because
Yes.
your mom can't do nothing. So who do you call when something like that happens? And the insurance also protected you if something else happened. So
Yes, and then like a lot of people, they're not like big fans of the NRA, but then the NRA and other gun memberships and stuff, they cover that. So if anything happened, like because you can do it for you can do it for your whole family. Guess what? You already lawyered up, and
right.
then that's how sometimes those people they fare much better in court because guess what? You the lawyers they already like kind of meshed with like the NRA or whoever it is. So like they have to come to your defense, get you out of jail, know what everything is happening and stuff like that. So I definitely think that we definitely need to try to do a show on that sooner than later because I just never really lived in a house and there was not a gun in the home. Um,
And that's why
um,
there's a level of comfort for you. So
yeah,
a lot of people again may not be against it, but if you don't have one, you're not used to having one at home, you don't know what to do. That's how a lot of accidents happen with guns, with children and even adults because they don't know. They just playing with it. You don't know what you're doing. You're not going out shoot like you need.
yeah.
That's a piece of it that you absolutely need.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
Unfortunately, kind of connected to this and what I was saying earlier, the good thing is about, being, feel like you can protect yourself. Um,
Mhm.
but like the incident happened in Michigan. What part of Michigan was that?
Grand Rapids.
In Grand Rapids, Michigan, where Patrick, I don't want to say this wrong, but Loyalia, am I
We
saying
sorry, people,
I
but
am very sorry. I was trying to look for a pronunciation and could not find it. But unfortunately, he lost his life to police violence. 26 years old. Um, it was a traffic stop went horribly wrong.
mhm.
you know, um, it's sad, and that's when it comes to that gun law. That's the part that scares me. Not that giving me because giving them one more reason they don't need a reason don't even matter. They're going to do what they're going to do. But it's
Yeah.
like one of those things of when it says, I fear for my life, they'll try to use that, you know, um, because
And
even
that's
in
so
this situation,
subjective because I really need like a definition. What is fearing for your life? Because I just know if people running away from you, to me, they're not in that's not attack mode.
exactly.
That's a
Um,
flight mode. But if I'm and when my son wrestled, and even if people didn't wrestle, but if you're not just piggyback carrying somebody just for fun, it's somebody on your back, they really have the upper hand. And it's just kind of like in war, higher ground is always like a better ground.
And that's
And
what
like
happened in this situation. At this point, the police officer was on his back and shot him in the head. It's
he
like,
held his head down and shot him in
yeah.
the head,
Um,
point blank
Here's
range.
the story. Just want to be clear. He did try to get away. He
He was
jumped on
running
him,
away.
but at the point of him being murdered, he was on his stomach. The police was on his back, held his head down, and shot him. Like that is
Yeah,
the point. Just
yeah,
because we always talk about flight or fight. Someone's gonna be scared. These things go all come on the news all the time. What goes through your mind in that moment? And it's
yeah.
it's just sad. And I mean, to me, it sounds like murder.
I personally I clicked on a video because it came up in my timeline and I
Mhm.
did not know what was going on or whatever like that. So I clicked on it, I'm watching it and I'm just thinking, okay, this is going to be, excuse me, another, video that shows just a wrong, not, I didn't think like the person was going to die at the time, but just how the whole thing unfolded.
Mhm.
And he was already out of the car. And I know some states have, like, if you're a man and you get pulled over, you must exit your vehicle. That part I do know. And he may have been asked to get out of the car. And when I was watching this, and I only watched it like once, and I didn't have the audio on it, and then so I'm under assumption, please correct me if I'm wrong, that when the video kind of starts, he's already out of the car. And it seems like he's telling him, go to the front of the car to put your hands, excuse me, on the hood of the car. And like he turned around, he's walking towards it. And then the cop just grabbed him out of nowhere, where that's already put is in a defense. Like it wasn't like he was not complying or
Mhm.
not doing what he was supposed, that the police asked him to do. But it's like, if you're going to ask me to do something, then not just saying like you allow me all the time in the world, but if I need to get 3 steps over to where I need to get at, like give me enough of time. Like I just can't,
Right.
just I'm
I
standing here and then I'm there. Like it wasn't even literally, it wasn't even 3 seconds.
I didn't watch the video, so I'm not quite sure
And
on
that's
audio
when it
or not.
started.
And it could have been that he gave him a different direction, because that's a lot of times that people say, like, they're giving multiple directions at once. So that could have been the case. The other case could have been he Patrick may have said something. God forbid you have an opinion, but he could have said something and it kind of ticked the cop off. But it's tragic. It's tragic. Um, it's
And
sad, and I hate that we even have another story to talk about.
it is. And I think that until it's not just do you go to jail, not go to jail, because most states have qualified immunity, which to me basically is license to kill, mean like where I can say whatever, and those like the federal order of police, FOP, that love to call your house asking and begging for money. They're gonna take care. They do. I block them in the car from a different number all of the time. Um, until your pension, until your pay is affected, guess what? They're gonna continue to do that because right now they're not in fear of unemployment. Or well, put it like this, they're not in fear of going to jail because they know it's very, very, it's even less than 1% of cops that go to jail for killing a person, especially while they're even on duty. Now, off-duty cops, sometimes those things can be a little bit different, but overall, but there's never any type of consequences. Like, you know what, if you have this, you can keep your job, but guess what, maybe you won't get your full pension, maybe you
Right.
won't get this, that, and the other, and it will make you think two, three, four, five, 600,000 times about that. And I personally, I feel like with the body cams, it's always, it don't work when you need it to work. If you step out that car, it needs to come on. I don't know if they need to have it automatically on, but I definitely feel like when you're there and you getting dressed and whatever like that, it needs to be checked to see if it's working.
Well, there
It's
just needs to be an overhaul of everything. Like, there's a reason to have the body cam, so they conveniently don't work when they should be working. The camera that's on the police car conveniently doesn't work when it should be working. So, what's interesting is that somebody who is going to put color in my hair, um,
wash
is
it,
going to wash my hair,
do
someone
your
who's going to
nails,
do my nails, someone who's going to do my lashes and give me a facial, have
wax
put
me.
in all this time for training when really the worst thing they could do is I look messed up. And maybe in the case of a facial, they burn my skin. But I'm still alive. I'm not dead.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I just think that is needed for more training. We know why they don't have more training. The police officers, that initially wasn't created to really protect the people. It was created to police black people. That's
Yes.
the bottom line. So there wasn't need for real training. That was easy.
Right.
They did it in slavery. They continue to do it after. So
Mm-hmm.
where's the real need? But there's like a real need for, real training. You like I think you said it when we talked about this, the training of, is this person cracked out? Are they on heroin? Or is this a manic, episode? They're not gonna know that. If they're
Or
not
did
getting the training to tell the difference, they're not gonna know that. So that's a part that you can't really even, but you can't blame the police. You have to blame the system, and at
yes,
some point that has to change.
absolutely. And like we said, like as but in both of our professions, we have to be state licensed, and then we have to have a national license to be able to
Right.
do what we are able to do. Otherwise we could not do our job. Most jobs in the healthcare industry, they're a licensed position. You have to do continuing credit hours. Even on your
Yes.
job, they have, yearly tests that you still have to do. You still have to perform these tests, just like if you just not starting on the job. So competencies, that was the word I
Mm-hmm.
was looking
Yep.
for. So we have 6 month and 1 year competencies and stuff like that. If you ain't competent, guess what? You potentially could lose your job, but guess what?
Right.
You definitely not going to be working over there in that particular area anymore, because you're affecting somebody's life. And it's like, if what I do affect a person's life, how does they do not? Now,
It absolutely does. Not just if they're killing people. It's like people go to the jail, and guess what? That affects their life.
and
So
if you're a
the
habitual
jail and getting
pathological liar, you know what? Maybe being a cop is not for you. Maybe you was bullied too much, and this is your way for revenge and stuff. Some type of altruism, type of psych thing, where it's just like you want to do bad, but then you join the police force so that you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
no, that's definitely wrong. And I feel like with them, because you are dealing with the entire public, people that are different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different languages, all sorts of different stuff, that there needs to be some type of psych evaluation that goes along with that, because the way that they have these tests, surveys, they can rule out that bias, and they know how to change those questions. So guess what? It's
I remember
hard for you to lie.
I remember when I applied for a management job at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: I'm not, just because I was applying for a management job doesn't mean, it's like everybody who applied for a job at Walmart had to
Mm-hmm.
take this test. And I want to say it was like 50 questions. And at some point, it's like some of the questions are similar, but really it ruled out if you're lying, because they kind of asked some of the questions in different ways.
Yep.
And you really don't notice. And I mean, I've known people to take it and like, I failed the test. Well, maybe you lied, or either you didn't read through the sentence.
You were
And
just clicking and
something so
moving.
simple like that, like to check people out at Walmart, it just needs to be more oversight with it. It needs to be more licensure. It needs to be more education. It is
And
needed.
it's talking about sit down at the table education. It's not just about, okay, how do you defend yourself in certain
Right.
situations? And also, what is your temperament? Because if you're easily to get mad, but you know what another point is, and we've also heard this, that police officers, you see a high incidence of domestic violence amongst those couples. So it's like, if you going home and you beating the shit out the person who you with, what make you think that they not out here doing it to the people who they supposed to be sworn to protect and serve? And then also it's like, okay, who do you want to protect and serve? Who do you feel worthy of protecting and serving?
Right.
And stuff. And there's just been such a disconnect between, excuse me, and I believe it's nationwide, the police and the citizens, that there is no focus on that. It's like, we okay if y'all don't like us. So there's
it becomes a very us versus them. And I think
yes,
that's a part of their training, because they have to learn to be defensive. So, and it's like, I get that piece,
but do you have to be
but
defensive on everything?
but because you're going to be in the community, because these are certain things you have to know. Like, you're not going to another country as a military agent and trying to find insurgents. Like, but it's almost as if that's what they're doing. So it's a very us versus them training. It seems like, I don't know. I'm not a police officer, so, and I can't speak of the training, but I get that they're training them to protect themselves, right? Because you have to be able to protect yourself. But your job is not to protect yourself. Your job is to protect and serve the community that you're in. That is your real job. They do need to get home, for sure. They need to get home to their families, but you gotta get that other piece.
Absolutely.
We're gonna transition. Just do a little update on, honey, like we talked about last time, the slap that was heard around the world, literally, honey. There, I was seeing all these little murals people put up in other countries and memes, and
the memes are great. I am here for the memes.
Heard around the world, but you know,
if it was between two countries, baby, they would be at war.
Exactly. We spent some time on this topic last week, but we just kind of wanted to give an update with Will Smith. If you haven't heard, he has been banned from the Oscars for the next 10 years. They banned him, but he resigned actually before the official ban. I'm not sure. There was a couple companies that said they're not going to have his movies out. One thing we know is that means he's not going to be in a lot of things unless it's something that he produced, because a lot of movies are created. They want to bring it to the Oscars. They want to, be able to be eligible for that. So I doubt someone who is banned from the Oscars can be a part of a project. So it'll be interesting what happens with him moving forward. I am definitely all about redemption. So I believe there is an opportunity for that for him, and hopefully there's some good that comes out of this for him and other people as well.
True, but I do know this, that I did find out. Did not know Chris Rock is originally from South Carolina. We down there, we don't play. It's 10 Rock brothers. They coming for your head, Will. They're coming for your head. Tony Rock, he already said he does not have as much to lose as Will. I mean, as his brother. He said, y'all might not see me on TV no more. He said, but I'm still gonna be on the tour. He was like, but you hit my brother in the motherfucking face.
Do you think
like it's 10 of us?
Do you think that it means
it might not be? It may not be with Tony, but as I say, but you still have 8 other ones that's coming for you. Some of them, they may be behind the scenes. We don't know what they look like. We don't know who they are.
They might send a cousin.
Well, guess what? We could just send a brother. Where it's like, guess what? If Chris is the main breadwinner, we gonna have to protect him. But guess what? That ain't saying nothing about anybody else. Because I remember in school, some people was talking about my sister. It was just like, you not finna talk about my sister. I know my sister wasn't finna fight, but guess what? I was, and I know my cousin, he loved to fight too. So guess what? Me and Pooh, we was gonna fight. It was like, they talk about my sister. Let's do it. And it's just like, no, I stayed into it with some people about my sister and stuff. Now I know I not always been the other way around, but I would go hold my own. My sister be not find out about after the fact. Oh, I heard you got into such and such a, you don't got to fight or whatever. But no, so I understand that because if just give an account that they came from a big family, it's 10 of them, and you technically you made it out and you are a household international superstar.
Mm-hmm.
That is still a level of we've been brought up where guess what? They was fighting some other people down the street because one person got to fight and they probably already knew. Guess what? You fight one, you got to fight all of them. And a lot of times that's how people was brought up as well.
Well,
So I get it.
well,
And
I
then
guess
it's just
that
like
means the
you
saga continues. We'll have to see what happens, what comes of it. It may be a lot of speculation because I doubt they do anything that could probably be linked to him per se, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be enough for him to just be looking over his shoulder.
if
You know,
not, you in the house. You in the house
right?
because you're scared. Now I done seen that happen plenty of times with people.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, you used to be out everywhere, but then now you ain't because you already know somebody gotta that I pull your number and it's on site. And guess what? I know the people from South Carolina because I'm from South Carolina. Baby, it don't matter. They gonna be just like Vladimir Putin. I wait 30 years.
Oh Lord.
I wait 30 years. So guess what? It ain't over because nobody not gonna forget that. Because every time the Oscars come around, that is
It's gonna
going
come up.
it's
Oh, we already
inevitable.
know the next Oscar is gonna be like that. There's gonna be a joke like, okay, everybody sit on y'all
It's
hands,
gonna be continued
all that other
to
stuff. I'm
it's
sure Chris Rock will probably gonna host next year just out of some type of redemption for him or
but let me
something.
tell
But
you, y'all better pay me like I'm finna star in a movie. I know
I
that
know
much. And I know,
because
I know anybody, y'all need to have a different stage. I'm not down there with everybody else. I don't care if we got money or not. I ain't on that level. So you ain't finna just walk straight up on me. You gonna have to climb up on the stage, and then I got the upper hand because I kick you in your head. But
Well, speaking of kicking, the Puerto Rican princess is in the news. I feel like she hasn't been in the news as much, but this time, well, at least the social media news. This time, the Puerto Rican princess Jocelyn Hernandez is facing a 25 million lawsuit for assault and battery. Apparently, for her show that's on Zeus, it's oh Lord, Jocelyn's
cabaret.
Cabaret, and it's on Zeus. It's I guess they finished their second season. They had a reunion, and according to the lawsuit, the lady said we showed up in ball gowns. She showed up in boots with her crew, and
She ain't read the room.
she didn't. They didn't. Somebody didn't read the room, and then Jocelyn took to Twitter and basically said, "You like I slapped one, I kicked another, I'm roundhouse like." She's saying
And she
all
probably
this.
said it that her favorite thing is like I walked her like a dog. I know she walked somebody because I haven't watched the second season of Johnson's Cabaret because Zeus Network it is a pay-per-view service.
Mm-hmm.
But I have purchased it so I could watch the first season. It was not an episode that there was not a fight.
Right.
And because this is a smaller network, they let the fight go. Like it ain't no like,
Well,
oh,
I
you
think
keep
people
going
watch it for that. Like she is notorious for fighting. She's notorious for fighting at
anything.
reunions. So I don't know why. I don't know if their goal is just to get some type of money. Because if you fought the whole season, I don't see how you didn't think you were gonna fight at the
Yeah.
reunion.
You fought
And
one
they
another.
actually sue people for
She
reality TV.
she fought y'all. And guess what? They they asking for a ridiculous amount of money because if they know her, they know she ain't got no $25 million.
No, she does not.
Because
They're
if she
trying. It's
did,
probably
she
like
wouldn't
let's
be
shoot
on
for this
Zeus.
amount, right? Well, there may be saying let's shoot for this amount and see what we get. I'm interested to know if they actually have a case. I don't think you can really sue on reality TV, especially if it's in your contract, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean Zeus is known for the fighting and the bickering. Like that's literally what they do. Love and hip hop, that's what they do. Nobody's ever sued anyone. So it's just interesting to me that they filed a lawsuit. I mean, the only thing I think they may have a leg up because they're saying that she brought her crew. So that may be the loophole that she actually brought people that were not actually part of the cast
Mm-hmm.
to have a fight.
Well,
Like
if
that
so,
did be that piece. I don't know.
Well, then it's one thing. Okay, so let's say you get jumped. You should have a case on everybody who jumped you, not just
Well, it's
on
her
one person.
show. It's her show though. So I mean, yes, I
Excuse me.
agree with you, but maybe that's why this one is her show. She's the executive producer. She brought her friends, so we're gonna sue you because you are the reason why they. I don't know, child. I'll be interested to see what happened. It was
Well,
just
it's gonna be another fight.
25
But
minutes.
then, like, she for real have for real strippers and people that's out there. Because the first season, like some of those girls, they were still literally out there, still selling ass, prostituting. They documented that and stuff. Because like one girl, she was like, "I ain't got time for this. Y'all arguing. I'm missing money," and like she went straight out there to the track. So it's like you're literally getting for real gutter people like you already know they want to do a come up, but they with that fighting because somebody probably told them like you ought to sue her. Because if that was the case, you would have got sued, and I would have stopped filming after the first episode. But if they
Right.
watched the first episode, they were familiar with Jocelyn, be it before she became on TV or while she been on the TV. Fighting is in her nature, so it's
Very
kind of
true.
like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah.
But we'll
I
see.
don't know.
But she ain't got the $25 million. I know that. But
She don't have the 20 million out, 25 million. You know, it's been said. So Jocelyn also did not have on a ball gown at all.
mm,
And on boots. Like when we
mm,
did it on one reunion, what she said, oh, she came ready. We got on
y-
ball gowns. She had on shorts. Like, so she came ready to fight. She brought her crew. I remember one time they were trying to say maybe she was on some powder. So I don't know if that's something they're going to try to put out about that again, child. I don't know. But speaking of powder, we're gonna get to tonight's topic, honey. The
yeah.
evolution of marijuana. Not that powder is marijuana, but it is a drug.
Some people put it in marijuana and they
That is
smoke
very
it.
true. That is very true.
Where I'm
So
from, they call it L's, lace blunts. When I lived in Chicago, they call it primos.
primos. Okay.
hmm I don't know because I remember they was just like, oh, they be smoking primos. I'm like, what is a primo? You know, it's a blunt, maybe that broke up crack or meth or heroin. I ain't know that. I don't
Is
do that.
primo like supposed to be the best? Like, is that
I don't know. I guess that's just supposed to be like code words, so you're not saying like, oh, okay. I guess if anybody else see you, you know, they not. Oh no, she don't smoke crack. She just smoke weed.
mm-hmm.
But then after she done got he or she done got zooted and booted, and then they pass cloud nine, that ain't no weed high. Because weed high is different than other type of high.
Yeah,
Very much
it
so.
is. And so, a couple weeks ago, a few weeks, like a month ago, we talked about this on our While We're Out last time. A federal bill was passed to decriminalize marijuana. I have mixed feelings about that, just in the sense of I don't believe it was done for the people. I believe it was done for big business.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But we'll look at the pros of it first before we get into the cons. Because I know I'm 40 now. 20 years ago, honey, uh, you were hiding. You smoked something. You sprayed cologne. You took a shower, and then you went to class. Today I went to Kroger, and the guy was with his mama smoking his vapor. I mean, it's no judgment, but it's definitely a
Well, I'm
change
gonna
from
say this
20
certain
years.
stuff that I see, I do judge because it's just because one thing about it, I guarantee you their mother probably has some respect issues. As my mother said, you certain stuff you can't let your kids see you do, and it's certain things you can't do with your kids because it puts you on that level with them, and your respect level go down. Just like she said, you will never catch me partying with you. I
Oh,
ain't going,
sure.
and I know with some people they've seen their parents and stuff do too much, and then the way they talk about them like that ain't they mommy and daddy, but they done seen, it's kind of like I just have you up here, but then you do stuff and bam, it just drop you.
Well, some parents feel like I'd rather you do it with me than you do it out on the street. That is a different mind.
Yeah, until they start talking all crazy and whatnot, and then we're like,
What?
You need to respect
smoking
me. I'm your mama.
just because he's smoking a vapor pen does not mean he's gonna talk crazy to his mama. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. It's
No.
just
How
interesting
old
to
was
me
on
that
average? How old you think this person was?
he might have been in his early 20s. He might have been
Okay.
in his early 20s. And I might be
Mm,
giving him some, he didn't look really old, but he didn't look like young, like he's a teenager.
yeah.
Um, but it's just interesting because again, we're talking about the evolution of marijuana. You had parents that smoke weed sometimes, but it was like if they find out their kid was 20 years ago, it was like, why are you doing that?
It's a problem.
Are they, like you said, parents didn't really do certain things in front of their children, and that has
Mm-mm.
changed, here now in 2022. But anyway, some of the pros of decriminalizing marijuana is the people that have records are it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be now. We don't know how long it's going to take, and is this rule for everyone? But it's supposed to be getting expunged, getting expunged, people being released from prison. Excuse me, I guess it depends on the amount and the amount of time that has been served. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of the trickle down effect in different states and how fast this moves. Um, and the other thing is, what I've been thinking about, a lot of people. That's why the expungement part is important, because when people get out of jail, most times you have spent your time, you paid your debt to society, yet there's so many things they still take away from them. They still take
Mm-hmm.
away their right to vote. Certain jobs they can't have. There's certain businesses they can't have. So that piece also would be interesting to me. I would say they should have a piece of the pie as well, a piece of the pie
That's
in this marijuana industry. But even people who haven't been in jail, it's very expensive to be a part of the industry.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is, and it's boiled down to money, and I'm pretty sure a lot of uh, large companies and stuff, because I can foresee Walmart, they sell everything else. Why would they not have a dispensary?
Listen, the reality is why I said I don't think it's for the people. I think it's for big business. Big
Mm-hmm.
business corporations, they have their hand literally in
Mm-hmm.
everything. So you have to decriminalize marijuana in order for them to be able to do the research they need to do to create the drugs that they need to create, to be a part of dispensaries. So you have to decriminalize it so that they can have that footing. I know people who are trying to have their own businesses in marijuana and even CBD. And before you can even have your business, you need to have like a $50,000 in the bank, a starter business, $50,000 in the bank. You need to pay. That's before you even have a license. It
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous, and is really not set up for everyday people to be a part of the industry. That doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. There are people that's coming together. There's people who have the money that they can, but it is not set up for that. It is set up, in my opinion, for big business. This is why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Yeah.
own little that's my own little spill in theory on why it's even important for them to for it to be decriminalized. It's just like alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol was not legal until they could figure out how to tax it.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out how can we make money from this. That is when it became legal.
Right. And then in certain states you couldn't sell beer or alcohol on Sundays. Now some places it didn't matter, and then some places it was you could still sell like beer by the cup, like if you went to a restaurant
Right.
or something like that. But then you see where a lot of places they stopped doing that. And when I was in Chicago, that was the first time I ever went in Walgreens, and like you buy hard liquor in there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? Even in Walmarts. And then now
Well,
that I
that's
was
not Chicago, not the Bible Belt. You really found
the
that more in the Bible Belt where it was couldn't buy alcohol on Sunday. I remember in school because I'm from New Orleans, so we could buy alcohol on Sunday, even though we're in the South, we in deep, deep, dirty South. And I remember in school even going to the liquor store. This was probably pre-21, but that's not even the point. Um, it's like you trying to get to the liquor store and purchase before 12 o'clock.
Right.
Like it was like on that dot, it was done. You cannot have even a purchase at 12 o'clock on a Sunday.
And I remember, like one of my cousins got arrested, so he used to run a liquor house. So people used to come over there and get $1 shot, and
Girl,
but
we
two of my uncles, they stayed right side by side.
Make that money happen.
Let me tell you, on Sunday, I wouldn't be over there because you ain't coming over here. But as I got a little bit older, it used to be another liquor store. There was a couple, not liquor store, liquor house. Man, baby, that was just like the spot to be. So, like where I'm from, everybody may not be familiar. Like, oh, what's a liquor house? Like, this is somebody that's selling liquor out their house. They was doing it like the Kennedys. We bootlegging and stuff. And I mean, it's still a lot of people still in South Carolina. They make their own bootleg liquor, and people like, oh, that's corn whiskey, baby. It ain't just corn whiskey. Because I remember one time my uncle, he was like, I need you to drive me somewhere. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm already like grown, so I got my own little car. I'm like 21, 22. And then he put a milk jug in my trunk. And I'm just driving. He gets out, drop him out at a little spot. I come back. He said, you've been driving fast and everything. He said, I seen you coming down the road. He said, don't you know you carrying a bomb? I said, what? A bomb. I was like, I seen what you put back there. And then when he showed it to me, like I was like, oh my God, he got
like it is mine.
But like he used to make it out kerosene, gasoline. I'm like, and I'm sitting up there. I have a stick shift, so I'm sitting up there. I'm killing the roads. Like it's nighttime. Like my mom ain't gonna ask me nothing about coming home or nothing. Like I had to be out all night because my uncle dropped me off over here and come back. Because everybody ain't had no cell phone. But guess what? I'm asking everybody what time it is. I'm gonna be back over here with my uncle.
Right.
He was like, you could have went to jail forever. If you ain't blow yourself up, you got a bomb in the trunk. I was like, Lord have mercy. But let me tell you, that bootleg liquor, I'll tell anybody that's the liquid devil, because I done seen people spike liquor punch at a party before. 15 minutes, you think the devil ain't finna come up in there? Everybody in there.
Look, that sounds like that's primo alcohol.
Let me tell you, if you ain't let over there to the side, you wilding. You fighting. Wow. You're fighting. Oh my God. I ain't gonna say it, sit up there. I done been in too many places, but like, hold up. Oh, I see somebody coming. Oh, they finna let me go. This is my time to
because they had that primo alcohol. That's what that means.
Them young boys that can handle that. They can't handle it because they say, oh, it's finna immediately put chest hairs on your chest. You finna warp into somebody else. Like,
Well, some other pros for marijuana becoming legalized and everything that is happening is the fact how we can get into it. There are some ways, there are some stocks that you can start looking into. We don't have any stock suggestions because this is not the type of show and we are not responsible for anywhere, but there are some stocks that you can look into to invest into. There's cryptocurrency that you can invest in. There's even land. So I didn't know that piece. So that's interesting that if you can invest in land and different projects that's going on. So although they're making it very difficult for people, I would say people of color to be a part of it, the marginalized people who've been, it's been criminalized for, because the reality is people who are not people of color, specifically Black and brown people, they have been smoking weed a very long time and it has not been a problem. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
So, as far as the criminalization, it's just been criminalized for people that look like us.
Yes, it's criminalized, and now it's like it's roadblocks, and they have strict gatekeepers to keep certain people in and out.
There are it's so many roadblocks, and it's awful.
And getting back to about with the land, because when you say, oh, you can rent land, because some people are going to think like, oh, well, I need to buy land to have it rent. So some corporations have already have land and they've been approved to have this land cultivated to actually grow marijuana. So what you do, you invest in that land, because the land is going to be rented to whoever it is that's going to grow it. Let's say like a company and something.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they are renting it, they're going to also have to get profit from it. It's the same way, just like when like farmers and stuff do. It's not always just, you do have farmers that they're their own farmer, and then they just make profit from whatever they grow. But you do have farmers who are in collaboration with like Dole or what is Jolly Green Giant, those companies and stuff, where they grow certain stuff. So it's like they leasing the land to grow green beans, but then you sell that, but then you get dividends or whatever from them renting the land. So it's like
Okay.
crowdfunding. So those things are already happening, and they have some places like that in Georgia, because it's kind of one it's they kind of like it's growing, and it's like labeled with that as a crop.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with certain states, they're going to be able to have it grown, and it's considered to be a crop. So that's a level of like a loophole that they're able to get it through, instead of just like, okay, we're growing marijuana,
Okay.
so to speak. But
Okay.
that's how they're
Find
doing.
out more information.
Absolutely. And if people, they have Robinhood app, you can go on there, and then they have a tab that has cannabis on there. And it's said that last time I looked, and it was in the New York Times, or I think it was New York Times, where by 2025, got 3 years, people, that the industry and the stocks is going to double. And right now, a lot of those stocks are penny stocks, or stocks that's like
Dollar stock.
$3 and less.
Yeah.
So you can purchase a little bit and get a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, oh, excuse me, about 15 years ago, Facebook stock really didn't cost all that much, but it was $1 stock. But let's just say that if you had 100 stocks at $1 of Facebook or Netflix or Google, how much you would be sitting on right now.
Right.
So there's definitely stuff to look into. Um, if you not wanting to actually be a distributor
Right.
of um of marijuana in itself, benefit from everybody else smoking it and using it. And also, don't think that big pharma is not going to be some of the main people that are
They
growing
are. They are.
it, distributing it, and all of this other different type of stuff. So still, even with that, if you can Roche, Pfizer, with GlaxoSmithKline, those people, Capsugel, find out some type of way. And also, as more research comes out, it's not just going to be a smoke form, because some people, they just can't be around any type of smoke whatsoever.
Right.
So smoking it is not going to be what they're able to do, but they're going to be able to synthesize that, and then you're going to be able to take it in a pill, or you're going to be able to take it in drops. That's kind of like how CBD oils and stuff like that is. So they're already modifying and extracting what is the beneficial part of that
Right.
plant for
Right.
people.
Because
So
there's marijuana tea, and I mean, it's tea that you make with leaves, just like you make tea, and a lot of people do that who have migraines.
mm-hmm,
It greatly helps them, and a lot of people, like you were talking about, in people not being able to smoke it. I mean, the reality is, smoking any form is actually not good for you on a continuous basis.
right.
But marijuana has, we know that it has its health benefit. It is here in the world for a reason, and
Mm-hmm,
some people have already tapped into it. Um, there are 3 branches of marijuana. You have your sativa, you have your indica, and you have your hybrid. Your sativa is more of a head high. That's like when people like in their mind and they feel like, oh, I'm somewhere else, and they get all these deep thoughts, right? You have your
okay.
indica, that's a body high, and that's kind of what you feel like. You feel that slump. It's the body high, that relaxation, and then you
Mm-hmm,
have just a hybrid, which is a mix of the two.
Okay.
And it's something I just learned that because at first I thought it was like those were strands, but those are called branches, and then the strains are actually the seeds. So it's like that's based on how they cultivate it, and they may
Okay.
name it anything. Um, and that's based on the quality. Is is it inside? Is it outside? What's the lights? What's the temperature? What is the location? How long did they grow it?
Mm.
Indoor is to be the most popular. It's the strongest. It's the most potent. So what you have outdoor, really the outdoor, the reason why it's not as potent is because you have to deal with a lot of pests. So you have to
Hmm.
also put pesticides on them. You have the rain. You have a lot of the elements. So it's actually
Yes.
not the preferred way to grow it. But for those when they're growing them, they name them stuff like uh, blueberry sunshine. I'm making that up, but
Strilla,
okay,
Killer,
thought it was
Dro, Purple,
honey.
all this other kind of
I
stuff.
thought it
Nickname.
like meant that it tastes like it, but it doesn't. It's just a name that they call them. Because as
Mm.
we know, honey, you don't want it to smell good because the stinkier it is, the better. That's what
This is
I can't say.
true.
That's what they say. That's what I say. The stinkier it is, the better.
You want that skunk?
Yes, but it's funny because
Skank on ya.
listen, get it off you. No. But like you have though, my brother was telling me, he was like, "Oh, there's one called the Gorilla Glue," and I was like, "Oh my god, that sounds so a lot." Gorilla
Yeah.
Glue,
It
like
sound very aggressive. Very
right.
aggressive. Get this monkey off my back.
But what's interesting is there are people that even though, like we were talking about not smoking it, people are using it to make a butter. But
Hmm.
it's got like microdosing. So they
Okay.
may be using it. They make a butter and they cook with it. People use it for pain management. So they may add it to certain things that they're cooking, and that way they're not really in those um, scenarios. I can't say they're not always getting high, but the goal is really not about feeling high and light and whatever the goal is, when people get high all
Hmm.
the time, you're trying to party or whatever, is really pain management. So in those scenarios, a lot of times they're using like indicas or mostly hybrids, but an indica for that body to relieve
Hmm.
the pain that they're feeling. But it's in micro doses, so they put it in some of their foods so that yes, it's in their system. However, the intention is not to be high. The intention for them to be able to function, to be functional, but have less
Okay.
pain.
Okay.
So I find that very interesting. I think that unfortunately, it's going to be a market that's going to be overtaken by big pharma,
Oh,
by Big
absolutely.
Brother.
Because that's where the research is going to come out
Right,
of.
exactly.
That's going to be verified research because just because both of us is in the medical industry, like you have to have research come out of reputable sources from actual researchers, PhDs, people with their master's degrees, MDs, in order for it to actually be a source of good information. Not saying that other people do not, but like you have people who have went to school to do statistics, they know how to do all of that. And that stuff is going to come out of there. So you're going to have stuff that's going to come out of the Mayo Clinics and John Hopkins and those large places where a lot of research, marijuana, just medical research come out of. But then
Yeah,
you also have those companies, Bayer, Roche, Abbott, that does research, and they are billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar corporations per year.
yeah.
Johnson and Johnson and everywhere, they're going to dominate because they're already doing research. That's just number one. So the individual person is going to be hard to compete with it.
It is.
Just
It is. They don't have the amount of money, the amount of power,
the
the
time.
amount of the time, even the knowledge. I mean, because I don't want to take away from research. I think research is very important. Right now, individuals they do their research on themselves. They create these products,
Mm-hmm.
they eat them, or they get it from someone who creates them, and it helps them for pain management. I remember a few years ago, there was an article about a lady who actually did this for her son who was autistic and
Mm-hmm.
spoke of all the benefits for it. There was an article most recently that I read about it and the possible benefits for autism. I think, you know, that would be great, but it's such a spectrum. So it's like, what does that look like? And it would require, evidence based research, honestly, for
Exactly.
your population. It
Because
can't just be something confined to, oh, I can just make it at my house. And so you're just getting your kid high. You can't just do that.
and also it's going to be some type of conflict during research, because there is actual research now that shows that children who has used, and they did specifically with marijuana and stuff, because of the different strains and sometimes with the paranoia, the younger the person is that have used it older in life, they end up with psychiatric problems. And
Yeah,
I can understand that's true, because that brain is still
still
developing,
developing. Mhm.
and you're giving it some type of chemical, um you know a not natural in your body forming chemical
Right,
that's attaching to receptors in a young growing brain.
right. But
So
it may look different for the atypical brain.
it could
You
be,
know,
but I do know, just like with when they try to say like how much, because like some doctors may say, like in a pregnant woman, like if you have 1 or 2 glasses of wine, that's going to be okay. But there's no consistency across the
right.
board, because they said nobody wants to do the research
Who wants
to
to? Oh,
actually
I had a glass
say
of wine every
how much is enough and how much is not, because nobody do not want to um hurt a human embryo and
right,
stuff like that. And we already know that in higher primates, they just metabolize alcohol differently than the human.
right.
So the research that's out there is actually retrospect. We just like, okay, was you drinking? How much was you drinking? Because a lot of people said, no, I wasn't drinking when I was pregnant. But that a lot of people, they don't know that they're pregnant between the first 6 to 8 weeks, but the brain stem, that the whole nervous system and the brain is fully developed by 8 to 10 weeks. So the damage is already done. So once you found out, you put the bottle down. But guess what? When you did not know, you was doing it.
Yep.
And so
Brain
that
is rapidly
exactly.
developing in that small amount of time.
Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna have some ethical things that's gonna go with certain stuff, where certain type of research. I'm not saying it ain't going on somewhere else in the world, but however, it's gonna be really, really hard to put that on the forefront of
Right.
medicine, just for the ethical issues and stuff like that.
I would
So
say I
certain
agree.
things, and sometimes it's just like you don't want to already mess with kind of like an atypical brain, what I'm saying, with something that you already know kind of alters, for a period of time, the normal brain. So you just kind of, it's one of those slippery slopes, like I don't know. And if I had a child that was on the spectrum somewhere where it's like, no, you can't use my child, but with our research, somebody got to come to the forefront. But as for me and mine, we ain't
And I mean, I think
volunteering.
that would be based on like a parent's decision because they know what the day in and day out looks like. That would have to be in tangent with the medical doctors, with the psychiatrists. Like, okay, because of taking these medications, what do you think this? How could this benefit? Does it, the good outweigh the bad if we try this on a lower level? I mean, I think it's, I think it's worth it to a degree. Like, I mean, I say that with a smile and a cringe at the same time. Worth it in the sense of if the benefit is truly a benefit. But it
But see,
don't
that's the
mean
thing. Like, you don't know, because it could
exactly,
not be, and then
exactly.
you've hurt
But we know
patients.
there's benefits of marijuana. So if there are benefits, what do you do to um X out the things that could hurt them, i.e., smoke? Like we already know it shouldn't be a child smoking. First things first,
Right.
you shouldn't be given something that is high enough for them to be actually high. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's interesting, the benefits. But on that same line, moving to the question, because we've heard this all our life that, oh, weed, it's not addictive, it's not crack. And it's like, okay, yes, it's not crack. And
But
I
we've
mean,
seen
thing with
people that
people,
have addictive behaviors,
right?
and that's all that they do. Because
Mm-hmm.
I give you a little story. Reason
Mm-hmm.
why I say that, I definitely feel like it is very potentially to be addictive. I would just like, if they had to say yes or no, I'm going to say yes,
Okay.
because prior to me moving from Chicago down, I was dating this guy, and he was a weed head. And like, he was in every sense of the word a weed head. So like, what I thought a weed head was, like, nah,
Like
I
he was
had
like
I had that
playing
for really off. Right. Like, so everything that he did before, after, he had to smoke. So one time we had went to his mom, his grandma, it was her birthday. So we had went over there. They was barbecuing at the sister house. So, the family is gathered. And we was over there, we got over there like 4-ish
mm-hmm.
and stuff. And like around 11, we already, and I'm helping his sister and his mother help clean up, put up stuff, because that's just who I am. He come through that kitchen. If you don't hurry up, you're about to be left. And immediately I'm just in them, just like, get in your car and go, because I can't be left here. Because I'm gonna have me some Uber money, but I know people in the city. I'm gonna give them this address, and they're gonna come pick me up, and they're gonna take me home, and I'll deal with you at a later time. But his mama was like, hey, chill, 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 whatever. Like, they was like, nah, she need to hurry up and come out. And it's like, we did not have no conversation. We was like, cool, chill, everything. So excuse me, I went on here and I left with him. But the way that he was driving on this on the interstate, just weaving and bobbing and driving fast the whole time, like, we're not talking in a car. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at his face. He's not mad in the face, not just like focused, concentrated. It was a different type of look. We get
Was
there
it like
to the,
anxious, you think?
I don't know. It was different. It
Mm-hmm.
was, I didn't see anywhere. It's like, okay, this is a fiend type of look. Like, if I need to hurry up and get to where I'm going, because it's just like, I guess it's like an impending doom type of look. Like, you geeked in the face, for people who know what that means. So that look. So when we get there to the house, he hurrying up, just smoking. And then he started smoking. And it was just like a whole another different person.
Mm.
And I was like, you addicted. No, I'm not. I said, look at what done happened. And it was like, it was other times where, you, before you eat, this helped me eat, this helped me go to sleep and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he used to drive Uber, and he would be mad because people would report him, said it cost me. Like, I said, what it do? He was like, no, it don't.
Like, what do
It
you mean?
does.
Like, sir?
And like, I had like some important stuff that I had to do. And he was mad because it's like, you can't take me. I'm not getting in that car. Like, even if I put a sheet or something on there, it's just so bad.
But he was like a weed head. He wasn't like, I smoke weed, whatever. He was like, when we go back to it, is it addictive? Because the idea, when people say, is I can stop at any time. That's what people say. Unlike alcohol and maybe some other drugs where you don't have that withdrawal. Because I know
Mhm.
people that smoke weed consistently, but then they have times where they're like, well, I'm going 3 months without smoking. I know people that gave up, smoking for Lent, and they're able to do it without, being like that, being,
Mhm.
oh my God, I need it. So, in the sense of, because when it comes to like crack and alcohol, like people who are alcoholics, it is not a conversation of, I can give that up for Lent. Like,
Right.
there are people who are sick in their body and they're telling them, you're going to die if you don't stop drinking. You need to get a transplant. And guess what? They don't
Like,
stop drinking because it's
r-
like
yeah.
their body is addicted. It's like, I need this to live.
So this is what comes up about marijuana withdrawal, and it's come from
Okay.
American Addiction Centers.org. And it said, these Withdrawal symptoms will present themselves in individuals who use marijuana daily or near daily for at least a few months. So some of these people, they've been using it for quite some time. So these are feelings of anger, irritability, aggressiveness, sensation to extreme nervousness and anxiety, disturbances in sleep, decreased appetite, and then they can also have a significant loss of weight, feeling of restlessness and general malaise. And for people who don't know, malaise is just like they're very tired. And onset feelings of depression, physical symptoms that cause significant distress, such as abdominal pain, fever, chills, sweating, headache, and or tremors or shakiness. And I
That sounds like
definitely,
addiction to me.
yes. So I think the reason why because any type of medication that um when it's ingested or taken into your body and it uses some type of receptor in your brain can get accustomed to that chemical and that stimulation, be it a high or depressant or whatever like that. And then so you take that away, your brain is going to react to that. Now, granted, it may not be as severe as a cocaine or a heroin or some type of opiate or even an alcohol um, withdrawal, but there is because you have that stimulation in your brain. So that's why I definitely think that. And but then we've seen some people where it's just like they can't operate, they can't do nothing without, getting high. And it's just
Yeah.
like you can't go over here to the kids' birthday party without being high. No.
I gotta go. Let me go
I
outside.
got
It's
this
like
this
cigarettes. Like
this
people
go
smoke
keep me
cigarettes. You
chill.
gotta
Like,
go outside and get a couple puffs.
yeah, and it's just like, oh, this go keep me chill, this go keep me level head. And it's just like, but was you that type of person before? Was you the type of turn up person? Like, no, you wasn't. So it's just, but addiction in itself, because addiction and abuse is two different things. Because the addiction is I have to have it. And if I don't, then I'm mad, I'm aggressive, whatever it is. Now, some of it can be physical, but it's just in your mind, like, why should I have to go without it? So that part, I do believe that that it is addictive, because some people just like, man, I gotta smoke something on the way to work, or when I leave from work, the time I get home, because otherwise my day ain't gonna go right.
It's like
So
coffee. Like people who have to have that cup of coffee in the morning.
mhm. So I definitely think that is definitely a part of it. But some of the because we're talking about the cons, right?
Right.
So some of the other cons that you never ever hear anything about, is that what happens because you have this substance that's now legal that once was illegal. However, the other laws still apply. If
Right.
you have a car wreck, and that's the one thing before I even talk about a car wreck, if you have marijuana in your system, because it attaches to um, basically like a fat molecule in your body, and it stays in circulation for about 28 to 30 days. It's not quantitative. It's just like to say, like, oh, it gives you a
It's not
number.
like
It's like,
if you were drinking, you could do a breathalyzer test. It's either
yes,
positive or negative.
yes. So we don't know if you smoked 28 minutes ago, 28
Or
hours
28
ago,
days
or
ago.
28 days ago.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's still there in your system.
Right.
So if you have a car wreck and then a drug tissue, which a lot of times they will, and then it's let's say somebody passed away due to the car wreck, but you have marijuana in your system, that's vehicular homicide with a lot of
Yeah.
places, because you're driving under the influence of a
I think
controlled
that's
substance.
the part that a lot of people don't think about. Like, yeah, these laws are changing, but the other laws aren't changing. So, just
And
like
people
you can't
don't
go
see
to
that.
work drunk, you can't go to work high. And so if
Exactly.
something happens at work, the first thing they do is they're going to send you to urgent care, and they're going
Yes.
to drug test you.
They're going to do a 12-panel drug test. Let me just let me be clear about that. They're going to draw blood for your ethanol. Ethanol, that's the alcohol, because it's not discreted excreted in your kidneys because it's metabolized by your kidney.
Right.
But the rest of it can be found in your urine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you do that urine. So in those states that it is legalized, they don't talk about how car insurance has went up, because I found out that there has been 6.6% increase in car wrecks
Mm.
in states that have had legalization of marijuana, a 4% increase in fatal car wrecks
Mm.
in those states. So in turn, you're going to have statewide increase in insurance premiums.
That's one thing I do find about that. I think as things change, specifically with this, the pendulum swing of normacy with this is gonna be on the negative side, where people are gonna be like, just like with the guns we talked about earlier. Oh, I can have it. I'm gonna have it. So when I get off, I'm gonna smoke me a blunt, and so you'll have that because it's like being on a diet and you have said, I'm not gonna eat all this, and then all of a sudden everything is available to you, you're eating everything. I feel like
Mhm.
that is where this is going to go first. I don't think long term it'll be there that way, but it's that pendulum swing of, okay, as you swing from one side to the left, it keeps swinging until that swing gets smaller and smaller. Then it meets somewhere in the middle, where it's stabilized. And unfortunately, that is definitely a downside of marijuana being legal. Is people who've been wanting to partake, but they wanted to be law-abiding citizens. I put that in air quotes for people who can't see, because
Yes,
just because you're not smoking weed don't make you a law-abiding citizen.
that's
Um,
true.
but for those who now to say, oh, it's legal, I'll be able to relax on the weekend, you have to think about these things because
And
there's
also,
parts of your life that this can affect you.
with companies still reserve the right to be a alcohol drug
Correct.
free workplace, because sometimes people, they forget. It's just like with Walmart, their headquarters is in Arkansas, so a lot of the laws that is in place for Arkansas, although they have Walmarts in every other state and across the world, they still follow by those things. So I didn't, because there's about 22 states now that has some form of legalization of weed. A lot of them is just medical marijuana, not just anybody can
Right.
smoke.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a 4.4 increase in unemployment in Colorado. So these people, they can't get employed because they can't pass drug tests, or you working for a company, something happens, or they smelling weed on you, which still the company policy is, hey, you can't you can't be high. That's an indication to say, like, guess what? You are high. But you see there's about a 6% increase in employment in California. So you do have some places where some people that maybe they wasn't able to get hired, or because they've been able to get certain expungements off of their record.
Mm-hmm.
Some
California
people
definitely
that
has
was
a
unemployable are,
broader legalization there.
yes,
What's interesting is bringing it back what you said about Colorado. A lot again. It's not for the people. People, these. I mean, I think it's good that it's. I mean, I'll be honest with everything. I think it is good only because I feel like it's criminalized, not based on the actual product. So for me,
hmm
it's like yeah, you're just trying to control people, and because you can't control this, you say it's illegal, it's bad. But as soon as you can control it and make money, it's good. So that's my piece on it. But it's interesting that they say they do it for the people, but then the people aren't benefiting. Because what it
exactly,
tells me is that the people of Colorado, although they have dispensaries there, they are cultivating there. It means they don't have the jobs that can possibly mean that. Are they getting hired to work at these companies? No, they are not.
no, absolutely not. And because they in Colorado they have a 4.4 increase of unemployment, that means a lot of people who is smoking, they working at other companies, they're getting terminated. But another thing that they do not talk about is that there has been an increase of people who lose their children to the system
Mm-hmm.
because something happens, and to that child, in the care of whoever the caretaker is, the parents or whoever, the guardian. And part of, if you lose your children, they drug test you. They frequently drug test you. And it comes up. When I was in Chicago, um, I worked with Cook County uh, Hospital, which is like a huge, huge hospital for the city of Chicago. And I was working with doctors and stuff that did child advocacy. And so once a month, they would go to the medical examiner's office slash kind of like their Chicago Bureau of Investigation. So they would talk about all of the children that died for that month that had something was going on with their case. You know, that there was going to be some type of prosecution. And for all of these children, with except for one, um, all of them, the caretakers had weed in their system. Some of it was only that. Some of it was they had that plus something
Mm.
else. But still, that made them, because they do know that it impairs you,
Right. It
that
does.
you could not, you was incapacitated, you did not know what was going on. And the bad thing was, it was like 3 children where the parents rolled over on the baby and
Mm.
smothered the baby. But when they woke up, they wasn't on the baby. And it's like, the baby is small and it's soft. You ain't finna feel that. And plus, if you with something and it's a head high, or even if it's a body high, you knocked out. And they
Or you
didn't.
don't feel like you can move. I mean,
Exactly. That's the
it's
whole point, where they call them
like,
stoners.
I can't get out the bed. I want to take a shower.
Right, you stoned. That's the reason why they call it stoners, because
Right.
it's kind of like you stuck,
Exactly.
in a
Like a rock.
statue. Yes,
A big
and
rock.
like some of the people, they definitely was going to jail. That's just all that was to it, based off of other stuff. And if they wasn't, they definitely wasn't going to get their children back. So then you have other children that they have that's in the system, in
Right.
which we already know children do not fare well growing up in foster care system or in orphanages.
Right.
So there is so much, different dynamics of this, because it's not just one thing. Like, decriminalize it, let them be able to smoke. Some of these people, like you said, because I can do it, I'm going to do more of it. I'm going to
Right.
do it more frequently.
Right.
And then some people who may have wanted to try it, but they was not finna do anything. I'm not finna put my hands on nothing illegal. I don't want you over here at my house with no illegal substance. I ain't riding in a car, all this other kind of stuff. So now some people, you're going to have new people who are going to smoke. And how
Right.
is that going to affect that family life, that home life? So, and also I always think about, if people had to have a survey, would you want your pilot to be a weed smoker? Period. Guess what?
No.
Everybody gonna say no. Would you want your surgeon to be a weed smoker? They're gonna say no, because a
I
surgeon
also don't
almost,
want to be an alcoholic either. A lot of them are.
this is
That's a
true.
whole nother subject.
But a lot of people, it's kind of like, guess what? I definitely, because people, I guess it's like, because alcohol has been, you can't go to work drunk. You can't go to work drunk. Where sometimes when you're drunk, depending on how it affects you, a lot of times you can kind of like see when the slurring and just a lot of
Mhm.
just external stuff that people, they can tell, like, oh, they drunk or whatever. So it's kind of one of those things where some people, it's like, yeah, let them smoke, but don't you let the pilots do it. Don't you let the surgeons do it. I don't want my teacher teaching my children and they high. Because at that point, you sitting over there in euphoria and you're not paying attention to see that this child is getting bullied.
But I will say, I went to
I mean,
school
I don't
for
know,
that.
but
I know you're saying just general, but it's
yeah.
like there's so many sides to that coin. Is it multiple
Mhm.
sides to the coin? Because it's only two sides. Anyway,
It's actually
I
3.
I went to school with this guy, and I mean he was definitely smoking all the time. But I will say he was one of the smartest people that I went to school with. He actually went to medical school. But he was one of the smartest and very helpful. Like he could teach you. Like if you did a study session with him, he'd break it down like no other. Very
Mhm.
interesting. But he definitely spoke. So it's not an end all to be all. Like no one is paying attention or can focus. But honey,
But
you
I
gotta
don't I
bring
don't
out the
think
good stories.
smoking weed really has anything to do with your intellectual ability.
Well, I'm not talking about intellectual ability, but the fact that you can be focused while you're in class. You're focused while you're studying. Like he was not just, oh, I smoke weed in the evening. He was definitely a weed head. He smoked quite often. But, for him, his story is way different because he got all the information. So much so he could teach you, things. He could tutor you and break things down to you. The unfortunate part is that a lot of people think because that's someone else's story, that's theirs. Because we saw
Exactly.
that happen with this person. Well, he said, "Yes, I could." No, that's not
What
true.
that's why I said I don't think it has anything to do with the intellectual ability. Where take away that he probably still is always just going to
Right,
be on it
exactly. Right.
anyway. Where like some people, you present something to them, they catch it on the first go round,
Mm-hmm.
and then who knows what his study habits was away from everybody else. Even though he could have been high, but still his ability to catch stuff, I don't think it had nothing. It was independent of weed because I mean, like I went to school with a whole lot of weed heads, and it's just like I can't study with them because they barely can form a sentence. But then
Exactly.
we supposed to be over here talking about this or whatever with science, and then you sitting over here trying to have a philosophical conversation. Like you need to be at the children's
And
table.
that's what I'm saying. Like for him, it didn't hinder his
Yes,
intelligence and his ability. And
yeah,
unfortunately, that's what people look at. They look at, it's always the good stories that people say. They're like, "Oh,
yeah,
this person did this,
but.
they were fine, so that's me." And it's like, no, that's not
Well,
you.
I'm going to say this, and I could be wrong, but I just think about because my son now is 18,
Mm-hmm.
it is very hard to pay attention to one child. And then most classrooms is 25 to 30 kids. And you gotta they're doing stuff. I don't care whether they're young, like kindergarten through 12th grade, they're doing stuff. It's going to be hard, really, really hard to convince me that you're going to be so spot on high with that many children that's doing different things, giving them.
Absolutely agree, but I also would say that the children would, as they say, mess up their high. The
I
children
mean that is
like
true,
mess up
but
their high.
but that's what I'm saying is that okay, now your high messed up. You kind of mad. So then how does that downstream towards those children that's just being children? They may
Right.
have legitimate questions where it's like now you short with people. If not, where you just gonna have to study about this tomorrow. Like you go back and reread the chapter where it's like, no, they had a legitimate question, but because you don't trying to be on your job high, and these kids just being kids, they don't ask questions. And then I ain't saying that they was just being bad, but guess what? It could just be introduction to a new topic. So 10 out of 30 kids have legitimate questions, but you just were like, I just want to just talk about this and get on through my day and just feel this.
And I think that's where the issue is. People are not thinking it through.
Exactly, because
People
with
put their
certain
children to sleep and they're like, okay, everyone sleep. Let me
excuse me.
go and have a couple puffs. And it's like, but what if something happened? What
Right,
if something
because what
happened?
because we've seen plenty of cases where nurses have been high on something on the job and they messed up people medications or they haven't been attentive as they should have been and stuff has happened. So I think people they want to legalize it, but guess what? Don't you be nurse Susan May. You
Yeah,
better take care. You better take care of my grandma because it's so everybody coming in. We coming in just like the Rock Brothers. We coming in for your head.
on
You know.
site.
Guess what? And we got our exes covered, so it ain't nowhere to run. You know. So I really just think that it's kind of it's good. If you got to be good for the gander, you got to be good for the goose.
Yeah,
Because people they don't want their pilot high, they don't want their surgeon high, they really don't even want their doctor high because it's just like if you feel like that, guess what? They're not gonna be as attentive. They're gonna miss something. Then how can you say for some people we don't change nothing? It don't change like it does. So And I think this is where another problem that lies with me.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the next drug
Is it cocaine?
that's going to be
That's a great
that
question.
people going to want to legalize?
That's a great
Because
question.
where does it stop? Because it's like, okay, they're getting the tax benefits from it. And it's just like with the lottery. They don't go back to give that money back to the schools because everybody's lottery is supposed to be education, but kids still going to them regular schools. They ain't built onto the schools. They got about 15 to 20 portables behind every school. You know, you every teacher in America is underpaid. They petition every year for more pay. But if this supposed to be, as I say, these like guilty pleasure or these sinful things, like guess what? What people they're gonna do, and they're gonna gamble, they're gonna do everything. We might as well tax it and use it to benefit. If
Right.
that's the case, every person in America should be able to go to any state supported school, not just a 2-year school or 4-year institution, for absolutely free, giving account of the money that each individual state brings in daily for the lottery. There should be no schools that still have you have to sign and say that it potentially is asbestos or lead paint in the school. No child should be in no school that still is like was what is it before 1975. It shouldn't be none. Every school should already be none, and it should have already be over capacity. So guess what? Ain't no more portables out there. So I just don't feel like this. The money and what they're using it for is still benefiting the taxpayers.
No, again, it's not for the people. I
It's
don't
for the
believe
corporations.
people.
It's
It's
for
for
the corporations who's going to benefit, or those people who have a lot of money, who's able to do huge investments, multi-million dollar investments. So, in the end, they're going to be billionaires within 10 years or less, when it's just completely mainstream. And that's the kind of unfortunate thing about it. And I think because that's the underlying thing, that's just kind of like, don't do it. Just make it legal. And everybody who had a weed charge, strike that charge. Now, sometimes people had a
exactly.
weed charge along with a crack charge, along with a trafficking charge,
You're
and
gonna still
still
have them other charges.
you still go have them.
Yeah,
But you shouldn't be in jail for 35 years for some weed. Like you need to go back and not just
especially
okay,
with
release the people.
dispensaries and distributors coming out.
Mhm.
Like you cannot have people sitting in jail for literally the same thing.
Right, because I've known people myself who did not sell drugs at all. However, it was a routine traffic stop, but it was in their car, and then they got trafficking charge, they got distribution charge. It was within a 1 mile radius of a school because that's a charge. In most schools, they're gonna have a playground. So then that's additional charge. If it's in a church, 1 mile radius of a church or a playground, that's another charge. Then they're gonna swear up and down, which is the intent to distribute. This was a nickel bag, sir. But guess what? This was your last nickel bag that you had to sell. So guess what? You go get that. And next thing
Right.
you know, they're looking at 20, 25 years. I have seen so many people that's my age when we was much younger just get
Right.
railroaded, and which was like so wrong. And the cops, they knew. And that goes back to, like we said, training and then just being reasonable. But guess what? If I can do what I want to do, I don't necessarily have to be reasonable.
And the reality is, again, that was mostly people that look like us. Because how many stories that, I mean, it was a few years back, and it was like a lot of white people got on Twitter. It was this big thing. It was like hashtag doing crime while white, and they talked about
Oh, yes, I remember
stories
that.
of things that they did. A lot of people talked about weed and how they got stopped, and the cop brought them home and was like, "You shouldn't be doing it." One even it was like talking about how it was two cops, and one of the cops drove their car, didn't let them drive, so drove their car to the house while they rolling. It's like crazy stories that it. And I get
And they
the
was giving them
idea.
grace and mercy because they was young and dumb. But guess what? When we are born, we supposed to come with 150 years of knowledge of knowing our place.
Correct.
and what
That is
to and what
usually one
not
of
to
those things.
do.
Exactly. But it's interesting because people who are, they were talking about stories that were 20, they're 20 years old. And, what I can say is that I'm happy that people who are now in their 40s and they can think about the experiences that they had when they were younger, not even in their 20s, like in teenage years. Of course, when you come up, you think everybody gets um those privileges. But when you
Yeah,
don't know, really, social media is the reason why they know. Like, oh, so everybody wasn't getting those privileges. So these people who went to jail, they weren't really as bad because in their minds, well, you must have been really doing something because
exactly.
you went to jail. Like, I didn't go to jail, so you must have really been doing something. And when you hear stories of people that went to jail for like less than the things that they've done, it's like, wow. And that I remember that was a few years ago. It was very interesting reading because it's like,
Yes, because it was just like I know people who did this. I remember somebody in the news who had this, and they put it on the front page, and I'm just like, and so sometimes like if everybody in your circle and everyone is in your bubble is being treated the same way, honest to God truth, I understand why they think all of us is lying. But to me, it's just like if you can go to the north, south, east, and west, and everybody got the same story, how was we able to have a black committee coalition to get everybody on the same one accord and y'all didn't know nothing about
wow.
it? Like that should be just a red flag. Like, you know what? Everybody got the same story. It's very similar. As I say, of the 15 points, 13 of them is the exact same. They ain't know these people or nothing. That's so it is very, very hard for them to see what we talk about because they themselves, they don't know nobody
They don't have the
that has
experience.
ever happened
Right.
to them, excuse me, in that particular way. They just do not know. And excuse me, and as I say, this system is not broken. It's working and thriving very well because this is what's supposed to happen. But it just need an
Right, it's doing what it's supposed
overhaul.
to be doing. It's doing exactly what it was intended to do. Like just going back, today's topic is the evolution of marijuana. And, yes, there are some great pros for it. There really
Hmm.
are. But we have to be real about the cons. And I think that's honestly the most important part to be aware of because those are the things that can change your life. The
Hmm.
pros, obviously, you don't go to jail. You can have your nice little buzz for the weekend. People getting out of jail, hopefully. People,
Hmm.
their records being expunged and being able to have good lives, hopefully. Because
Hmm.
again, in the criminal justice system, you may go to jail and you get out of jail. There are certain things you can't do.
Yeah.
So we have to remember the cons. It's not
Mhm.
to put a damper on the excitement for people.
Mhm.
There are people my age, younger, older, who are so happy about it. But it's like, hold on, hold on, hold on. I don't want to bust your bubble. But
Mhm.
these are things you have to remember.
Mhm.
So this has been a great discussion. And
It
I
has.
definitely want to continue with it.
Yes.
Hopefully we can get some people on so like they actually knows more about the industry. Maybe
Yes.
some episodes down. So anyone listening, if you know of anyone who's in the industry who has more information to add to this discussion, please email
Mhm.
us at the40spot@gmail.com and we would love to have that person on or to get that information from you because the things we talked about today is from our experiences, the
Oh,
things
absolutely.
we've looked up, the things that we've known about people. But we'd love to have, that first encounter of people that are in the industry or have been affected by it in a positive way. That would be great to have somebody who maybe have gotten out of jail with this new bill. That would be amazing to hear their story. And then even on the other side of it. So that's something I
Yeah.
definitely look forward to in the future for us. Um, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And if people out there that listen, because I know there's a podcast for everything, if they know of a podcast that they talk in depth about these things where they may be more knowledgeable, please let us know so that we can reach out to them, because that would definitely be a great collab. Just to have even more information, even if it's just doing a show based off of the investing part of it, so you don't have to have $100,000,000 upfront cash money in your bank account. Because I can guarantee you, if I had that type of money, I ain't thinking about doing no, selling no weed. I'm finna do something else. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just being real. Because clearly I'm doing good and doing something that I got this money just on hand, you know. Um, so definitely just reach out. And as we say, it has evolved from marijuana to, like my mama never said, reefer, grass,
That
Mary
ooh
Jane,
wee.
that skank on you,
Get
that
it off
purple,
you.
that hash, like gas. It
That's
has
ooh.
definitely evolved.
Yes. Yes.
Dro, trees, like everybody has something. So it has definitely evolved as we have created different names for it. It has definitely evolved.
Yes. But now we just want to say happy birthday to all
Yes.
our birthdays in April.
Yes. I have a few. My auntie Gloria, her birthday was yesterday.
All right.
She turned 70 trips around the sun. My cousin Latifa, aka Lady, her birthday. Um, my aunt Alice, her birthday is coming up. And my best friend in the whole wide world, Crystal, her birthday is this month. And plus, happy anniversary, because today is her anniversary.
Okay,
So then I
okay.
made 5 years, 5 years.
Well, we have a special shout out from one of our top fans, Miss Erica. Just want to say happy birthday to you.
Yes, happy birthday, Erica the Realtor.
Yes, honey, and she's one of the top fans, so we appreciate you getting in with us and linking up with us. So I hope you have a wonderful birthday. Anyone interested, please email us at the 40spot@gmail.com. Give us your name and your date of birth. We don't need the year. And or you can DM us. We are at the 40 spot on all social media. We would love to celebrate you. We would love to say happy birthday to you. So one more time, happy
Happy
birthday from
birthday.
the 40 spot.
40 spot. Yes, yes.
Oh, I love doing it.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna have to get us some little things where we dancing, so they just see that if you're watching it, that we just
I
dancing.
know something that like a like confetti that you can hear. So for anybody who's listening on a replay, they can actually hear that as well.
Yes, like it's a
Well,
party.
we're gonna work on some stuff. You know, we're new at this thing, but we
Yes,
got some great ideas. But I love that idea, Renee. I love that idea.
yes. So one thing that I want to say before we leave, as we know, in 3 days is 420. That is the
Yeah,
Earth Weed Day. I know I'm gonna be smelling it everywhere. Smoke responsibly. If you can't handle it, you need to be at home stationary before you smoke.
well,
If you're in a state where it ain't legal, be safe, be careful, because the police, they know. Also, it's getting close to the end of the month, so they still trying to get those quotas.
exactly.
Don't mess
That's the
around and lose
takeaway
your
from today.
job.
That's the takeaway from today. Be
Smoke responsibility.
careful. You
Yes,
smoke responsibly. Don't just be out here doing what you do. So, guys, we will be back with you in 2 weeks on May 1st.
yes,
Um, we're excited. Just remember that we're here every other Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. In the meantime, you can follow us on all social media at the 40 spot, the 40 spot. Listen to us on all podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. We are there. We are there. We appreciate you tuning in with us tonight and for you listening on the replay.
yes. 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 We thank you for listening. If you just want to pop in to look to see what we look like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's where you'll be able to find the videos. But if not, we appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe, rate us on these
Yeah,
platforms
download
so that
us.
when they look for us, we further up on the list. We on the
Yes,
list. We're gonna
download
scroll.
us. Download the podcast, y'all.
Yes,
Stream it and
share it.
download.
If everybody who follow us, if they download one episode and post it to their page, we will that needs to be our challenge, the 40 spot challenge. So everybody download one of the shows. It doesn't matter which one, or even it just take it off of the link and repost it on your social media. Send your people over there to see like how y'all like us. How y'all like us? How can we improve? What do you like? Give us although we have a plethora of topics, give us topic ideas.
Absolutely. Give us some topic ideas, please.
And,
we want to
sometimes
talk about the things that you guys want to talk about. We started off talking about that. Like, hey, this is something we want to talk about, but we want to talk about what you're interested in. We're trying to build a community here.
Yes.
So definitely give us that information.
And since we're going to be in this thing for a whole decade, in the 40s, guess what? We got stuff to talk about. We have definitely stuff to talk about. Oh, and one other thing, for birthdays, one of my friends, his granddaughter, she was born a couple of days ago, Azalea. So this is her birthday. And she started. So she almost about 40 hours old.
Oh.
Yeah. So guess what? We still get anybody's birthday. You don't have to be 40. Guess what? You just keep living. You go tap it.
Hello.
And if you beyond 40, you already tapped it.
Yes. So again, we thank you. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for listening on the replay. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.